of parliament, that's a problem. I plan on abolishing. Cause a raw, cause I best the friggin' product you wallow in. And all that talking, I ain't buying what you offering. You balance it.
Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. Today we'll be talking about a very eventful episode of AEW Dynamite that still managed to have almost no energy. It is almost embarrassing how little energy they got for so many big changes that they made on this show. But first, we got to talk about some news and notes. Number one, I saw the matching tattoos that Sammy Guevara and Tainara Conti got. They got tattoos on their rib. She got his name, he got hers. I remember there being an MTV special about stuff like this, where it was like when I was a kid, so I was probably about 17 or something like that when I seen this. And it was talking about people who get tattoos of their girlfriend's name or boyfriend's name on them. And how long does it take generally for that thing to fall apart almost immediately after that happens? No matter how long they are together, the moment they get matching tattoos or tattoos of each other's names, things fall apart. And I'm not wishing ill of them. I just think that this whole thing is is a little childish. And I wish I could remember what episode that was. I think it was True Life. I think it was an episode of True Life on MTV. And, you know, people get stuck with this stuff forever. I mean, it's 20 years ago, thereabouts. So maybe, tattoo removal or tattoo cover-ups have been a little bit more advanced since then. Undertaker used to have his ex-wife's name tattooed on his neck. That didn't quite work out. There's so many of those types of situations. But I just thought that was an interesting thing, not something I could rant on forever. What I do intend to talk about for a little bit is Matt Jackson talking about wrestling fans being the most toxic in the world. So this is what he had to say. Who was he talking to? He was talking to What Women Binge, the podcast. It says, wrestling has the most toxic fan base in the world. They're the worst, honestly. Like, there's a lot of good fans. The ones that love you. But the ones that hate you, they hate you. Sure. But here's the problem, Matt Jackson of the Young Bucks. You guys created this problem. Part of working people is sometimes they don't know how worked they are. Other times, that's because that's your job. You've worked them up, and now they're legitimately mad at you. They legitimately don't like you. And as a heel pro wrestler, this is part of your job. Could you imagine Abdullah the Butcher or somebody like that being like, man, these fans are toxic. Fucking Jack Lanza, was it Jack Lanza? They got stabbed. Black Jack Lanza who got stabbed. Like, whoa. Those people, man, they're toxic. Roddy Piper getting stabbed and stuff like that. Man, these fans, they're so toxic. They're the most toxic fans in the world. Like, yeah, buddy. But almost all fans get like this. And that was my second point. My first point is, as a heel pro wrestler, you cultivate this audience. That's the thing. You want people to feel passionately about you, whether it's hate you or love you. That's what you want. So if you have haters and you're a Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson of the Young Bucks, then you did your job. A lot of people you have worked people into not liking you. The second part to that is, well, how much of that is kayfabe and how much of it is real? Because people could really not like you, not even really care about your characters and all that kind of stuff anymore, just genuinely don't like you. And part of that can become from your smugness and your attitude. And the fact that you antagonize people even in real life outside of kayfabe. So a lot of the Young Bucks' problems, if they have any, is of their own making. They did this to themselves. They helped the fan base become toxic, and they do so every week with their stupid being the elite, all the silly skits, all the stuff that they do. They create and foment these toxic fan bases that they then turn around and claim and cry about. This is, along the same lines that a lot of people say that the NFL had really rough fans. I have yet, some of the rowdiest people I've ever seen in terms of fans is like in Europe for soccer. I mean, they will burn a city to the ground over a soccer match. I mean, it is insane. Yes, the United States does it too for like football and stuff like that. Sure, that's what I mean. That was kind of my point, though. Is we're kind of getting there. Is that soccer riots, sports riots? These things are real, and they used to happen in wrestling until people kind of was let in on the joke. It used to happen a lot. There used to be wrestlers who would win a match and then they wouldn't even announce it on the house mic because they don't want people to act up. When Pedro Morales lost the title, they didn't even announce it because they didn't want the Puerto Ricans and the Hispanics in there tearing the building up. Like they found out in the newspaper. Like that was real. You know, that's toxic. People tweeting at you that you can block. I'm not so sure that those people are that toxic. You know, so. You know, there's a level to this. I do believe that there's a lot of people who hate the Young Bucks, and you know, the Cornette kind of foments a lot of that too. He kind of forges the fire on the hatred of the Young Bucks. So many people wouldn't have paid them that much attention if it wasn't for Cornette, to be quite honest. Especially in recent years, within the last 3 or 4 years, I think a lot of the people who hate the Young Bucks, you know, unreasonably, is due mostly to Cornette absolutely ripping them every single solitary week. My dislike of the Young Bucks goes all the way back to Generation Me, but I don't hate them in so much as I hate their guts. I just don't like their work, and I think their work sucks, and I don't think they have a personality whatsoever, and I think everything about them is phony, and it comes across as being phony. But I don't tweet at them, you know, I don't talk about them more than I need to, so I don't really consider myself to be a hater of the Young Bucks. If somebody hurt one of their kids, I defend them. You know, there's other people out there be like, good, fuck you and your kids. Like those people are, you know, they're kind of going a little far. You know, but, you know, if one of them was in a car accident, I feel bad for them. Like legit, I have sympathy for them. If they had a good match, I would say they had a good match. If they cut a good promo, I would say they cut good promos. It's just fortunate for me that they don't. And I think a lot of people feel the same way. There's a lot more people who are just kind of like, these dudes are just garbage. And then they take that as you're toxic. Versus, you know, somebody actually, as they suggested, somebody stole their luggage. Or, you know, somebody is trying to do them physical damage or physical harm or whatever. They're just being drama queens. I can't stand it. Like, stop antagonizing people on Twitter, through video, through interviews, and then trying to cry wolf and say, oh, the fans are so toxic, they always messing with us. Like, man, shut your ass up. We know what's going on here. Alright, third news and note. Miro signed a contract extension. Very interesting, considering he hasn't been on TV in months. I don't think he's been on TV since the last pay-per-view. And they just had another one. They only have pay-per-views via quarter, right? They only have quarterly pay-per-views. So his last match was against Danielson. That was at the previous pay-per-view. They just had one just passed, and he wasn't on that one. So, but I guess it doesn't matter. He's making some sweet coinage. Go for it. I'm all for Miro signing the extension to get some sweet coinage. All right, so I think that's about enough on the news and notes. Is there anything else I need to discuss? Let me know in the comment section below. Maybe I'll kick it over to Rampage. But first, we have to talk about Dynamite. Now, I'm going to do a little bit of skimming when it comes to the matches, because a lot of these matches I just don't care about. And there's nothing really to even talk about in terms of these matches, because it felt like they booked the show right before the show aired. You know, that's kind of how it felt. You know, a lot like Raw sometimes. Like Raw feels like you throwing things together as the show was going forward. Now, a lot of the stuff that they were doing here was clearly stuff they had thought about before. But there were some things that just kind of felt like, all right, we got to throw something out here last minute. And things that normally would get a huge pop out of AEW got kind of a mild pop. But let's start with Jericho. So I'm going to skim through this. Jericho says that Eddie Kingston gave him one of the best matches of his career, probably the best match he's ever had in AEW, and that Eddie Kingston earned his respect, and he owes Eddie Kingston a handshake, and he always pays his debts. Eddie Kingston comes out there, says that he didn't really want to go to the show. He wanted the poison. He wanted to go out and party and just blow the match off, and not wanting to do it. And then he met 4 people who said his Player Circle article changed their lives and stopped them from offing themselves, and he wanted to make those people proud. That's why he showed up, and he fought for them. And he also wrecked some guy who was doing the what chant. And I really appreciate that. Thank you. Salute to Eddie Kingston for crushing that fucking what chant. Because there was a guy wetting. And he said, he said, show him some respect. You know, my man Steve Austin ain't here right now. Show some respect. And the crowd kind of cheered him on. I was like, thank you. So Chris Jericho then respected him, thanked him again, offered him the handshake. Kingston shook his hand, so the handshake actually did occur. Then 2.0 came to the ring, and I was like, oh, I saw this coming a mile away. 2.0 came out there with Daniel Garcia. They jumped Kingston and Jericho. Next thing you know, Santana and Ortiz are out there. They beat up on 2.0. They're holding Daniel Garcia and 2.0 because they're going to hit him with the bat. Jericho gets the bat, whap, he whacked Santana, or was it Ortiz? I forget which one. Then they continued to beat Santana and Ortiz with bats forever. It was almost like a scene out of Casino if Casino was put together by twinks. In any event, Hager comes to the ring and he's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? And Jericho kind of doesn't really explain himself. They just kind of push and shove each other, and then Hager jumps in. And now Hager and Jericho and 2.0 and Daniel Garcia are just stomping and beating and tearing apart Eddie Kingston and Santana and Ortiz. Eddie Kingston is held by his arms. He's smacked in the face a bunch of times by Jericho. Then Jericho stabs him in the face with the bat. Jericho then gets the microphone and says that this is the Jericho Appreciation Society, and that's entertainment. Now, you may say to yourself, Mongo, you missing something, aren't you? Didn't you, in your short summary, you missed something? Oh, no, I didn't. I saved this part because it's the best part. Eddie Kingston gets powerbombed through a table. It is the most asinine spot I think I've seen in quite a while. Next to that Poison Rana that was on NXT. This was dangerous. Hager, for starters, could not lift Eddie Kingston on his own. He had a very, very, very hard time getting Eddie Kingston up. He had to get help to stabilize Eddie Kingston. Then, when he powerbombed Eddie Kingston, he didn't put enough oomph on it. Thank God Eddie Kingston was smart enough to turtle up and put his hands behind his head, because who knows what the hell might have happened if he tried to take that thing straight up. Hager is a goof. The rest of them are fucking goofs. They almost killed Eddie Kingston. Almost. Now look, part of it is Eddie Kingston's fault too, because he was kind of heavy. But you would think a guy like Hager, who was an MMA fighter and all that kind of shit, he would have some type of, an amateur wrestler, he would have the strength to lift Eddie Kingston. And even if he couldn't, you would think they would have the wherewithal to change gears, to say, you know what, let's just do the shield bomb. That's what I would have said. Like, yo, this motherfucker heavy. Let's just transition this to something else. Somebody else has, grab his arms or something like that and guide him down. It still probably would have missed. Missed most of the table, but at least it wouldn't have looked so bad. This was awful. Now, the Jericho Appreciation Society is stupid. That's fucking dumb. It's a stupid name. This is bad ideas from bad creative. Jericho wants to have another stable. Fine. 2.0, I don't know what 2.0 and Daniel Garcia got to do with Chris Jericho. I'm sure they'll explain that at some point in the future. But to me, this is ridiculous. It lacked build up. It lacked cohesion. I think a lot of people were kind of into it until the name was announced, and then people were like, what? The Jericho Appreciation Society? They're the Japs? That sounds like what the Americans went to war with in World War II. We're going to go kill some Japs. You know, like, what on earth? Where did this name come from? It's so corny. And then Jericho's like, that's entertainment. I'm like, what? Where did that come from? What is going on here? Like, are we transitioning away from Painmaker? I guess that's what it was. The demo god to, the influencer. Okay. But I'm not feeling it. This doesn't feel authentic to me. It felt fake. It felt bullshit. I don't like the name. Go come up with a real name and then explain to me why I should care about 2.0. Daniel Garcia, everybody's fighting over this kid and wants to be this kid's mentor. He doesn't have a lick of personality. I don't know. I don't understand what everybody's so excited for. There's 100 young dudes in the locker room. Everybody's arguing over Daniel Garcia. It's like, fuck. Did y'all find a personality in one of his pockets or something like that? Was it rolled up in his socks? Where's his fucking personality at? Why does anybody care about this fucking mechanic? I understand he's young, but goddamn, come on. How many other young guys are there that could probably use, the tutelage of Chris Jericho and and the attention of Bryan Danielson and all that kind of stuff? I just don't see it when it comes to Daniel Garcia. I don't see what everybody else sees, and maybe it's because I see absolutely zero personality from this guy. None whatsoever. He needs a triple personality bypass. It's awful. And I don't see him doing anything in this group except looking like shit. But whatever. I'm not feeling this Jericho Appreciation Society. It sounds stupid. It looks stupid. It got terrible people in it. It's Hager's in it again. 2.0 is absolutely terrible. Even though they can be funny. They can be entertaining. I don't want them and Jericho together. And I don't understand their connection with Daniel Garcia. And I don't understand the Jericho Daniel Garcia connection. I just don't understand any of this stuff. I don't understand how any of this stuff makes sense. I don't understand how any of these characters, when you look at them, how they would get along or what they get along about. I don't get it. Jericho wanting to have his own group of ass kissers is fine. But they really could have done it a different way. All right, moving on. Punk cut a promo after the dog collar match saying that anyone who says they want the old Senior Punk back better think again. Then he said he has to purge all of these feelings that he's had, and as he digs these thumbtacks out of his back, he's going to be digging his own grave or something to that effect. This was pretty effective. I like this. This was the only CM Punk we had on the show, though. Hangman Page then defeated Dante Martin with the buckshot lariat. This was an AEW World Title match. For some reason, they had all the damn titles except the women's belts on the line tonight. And it seemed to make no damn sense. It sounded like it was thrown together. What did Dante Martin do to deserve a world title shot? He just existed. Did he beat anybody of note? No. He just kind of existed and they gave him a title shot. Because, hey, everybody likes Dante Martin. Whatever. Hangman Page, it's a weird match because Hangman Page got the big league, Dante Martin, like the no-sell his chops and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, Hangman Page is not big. He's up here absorbing Dante Martin's chops like he's Sting or something like that. I'm like, wait a minute, come on. When Sting was absorbing those Flair chops, for starters, Flair's chops were put over as being, some of his best offense. So Sting no-selling it was like, woo. Here, it's kind of like Dante Martin's 120 pounds soaking wet with cement in his boots. He probably couldn't knock over a fruit fly out of a basket with one of these chops. And now all of a sudden, Hangman Page is basically walking through him like he's the fucking Undertaker. I'm like, what is going on here, man? Why is this match even happening? Now, I don't hate it because I understand that it's an old WWF thing. Shawn Michaels used to defend the title against like the 1-2-3 Kid or Justin Hart Bradshaw on like Superstars or something like that. It would just be a random title match between a champion and a guy he hadn't beaten yet, or a guy who is fairly new to the main event scene, or a guy who was a mid-carder getting a shot at the belt for no big deal. It wasn't a big deal. It's a TV match. So I'm not mad that it occurred. I was okay with the finish. I thought, Paige just plain winning was fine. That was all good. My problem here is that, it seemed slapdash. It didn't seem like we didn't do anything to really put Dante Martin on this level. And that's what made it feel like some slapdash superstars main event. And it was the first match on the show, by the way. So Paige gets on the microphone after the match, because that's the AEW thing. He says that Dante Martin is one of the youngest guys in the locker room, and he had to pick up the pieces after his brother went down, and he went from a tag team wrestler to wrestling for the world title, and said he's one of the hardest hitting, fastest young guys he's ever met. And he will look forward to doing this again in a couple of years or whatever. Adam Cole then come out there, basically called at Hangman Page's win at the pay-per-view a fluke, and said he's going to make his life a living hell until he gets what he wants, which is a new AEW World Champion, Adam Cole, baby. Then challenged him to a 6-man tag, and said that he can pick any 2 partners that he wants. Later, Adam Cole kept dropping hints that he's going to pick the Young Bucks as his partners. The Young Bucks actually said, no, we told you, we're not fighting Hangman Page. Adam Cole then said, okay, okie dokie, I wasn't going to pick you guys anyway. I was going to pick Red Dragon. I was going to pick Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish anyway. Because they're my friends and not yours. I'm like, oh. Anything that involves the Young Bucks is not good. And I looked at this thing and I say to myself, everything that the light touches when it comes to this scenario is a Young Bucks idea. The entire concept of Hangman Page, he's their friend. Dante Martin, he's one of their guys. Top Flight is a tag team in their tag team division. Everything about this just reeks of the Young Bucks, and it does not smell very good. It's awful, in fact. Adam Cole whining about losing is embarrassing. Of course, it's typical heel stuff, but I don't see how him winning a 6-man tag all of a sudden makes him the number 1 contender again. I don't understand that. So it seems kind of silly to me. There's a bunch of other contenders out there, but then again, when you're having him wrestling Dante Martin, why not? So the question now is, who is Hangman Page going to pick to be his partners to go against Adam Cole and Red Dragon? And my best guess is that he's going to pick the Young Bucks, because he didn't want to pick the Dark Order. And he talked to them later and kind of said, well, kind of want to go somewhere else with this thing. So I'm guessing he's going to pick the Young Bucks to be his partners, and the Young Bucks are going to team up with him to fight Adam Cole and Red Dragon. They may do a storyline where those guys try to avoid fighting Adam Cole and focusing on fighting O'Reilly and Fish. That seems to be, but knowing a 6-man tag featuring the Young Bucks, it'll just boil down into everybody doing flips and falling on each other anyway. So there's no reason to get too excited about this. All right, now this was very good. Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley defeat the Workhorsemen. If you are confused about the Workhorsemen, don't be. Nobody knows who these fucking guys are. Nobody cares. Anthony Henry and JD Drake were a tag team in Evolve. I think they may have worked some other independents together as the Workhorsemen, but if you didn't know who they were, congratulations. You're among the other 2 million people who watch wrestling and didn't know who the fuck these guys were. Danielson and Moxley basically just beat these dudes up, kicking them and just striking them and elbowing them and everything all over the place. They gave some offense to Anthony Henry, fired up on Moxley pretty good. But ultimately, JD Drake submitted to Bryan Danielson. But the fun part, the match was what it was. Who cares? The fun part was William Regal got to cut a promo. And he is so witty and charming. And yet comes across almost like a Bond villain. But he wasn't in villainous William Regal mode here. He was in, gracious elderly vet mode. As he talked about 29 years since he came to the United States. And so many years since he's been on TBS. And that he lived a hard life. And that he's not long for this world. Plenty of empty bottles and broken hearts. That was so witty. He thanked Tony Schiavone. Actually, he was actually started to choke up a little bit. because Tony Schiavone was one of the few guys that came there and helped him when he came to this country. And he says that he checked out of the industry after he wasn't needed at his last job. And then he got mentioned by Bryan Danielson on Dynamite. And that made him want to see it. Then he heard these two guys were going to fight. And then he said he had to see that. And then he talked glowingly about Bryan Danielson. He talked about Bryan Danielson in the kind of way that you would hope your dad would talk about you. He said that Bryan Danielson is the perfect wrestler. He is what I should have been. And he talked about how Bryan Danielson kept his name alive, and that, a lot of the younger fans only know who William Regal is because of Bryan Danielson, and how, whether it's Ring of Honor, whether it's WWE, no matter where he goes, Bryan Danielson talks about how great William Regal is, and that's what the fans know him for. And he says that Bryan Danielson is everything I should have been. And that shit almost made me cry. He said, you are everything I should have been. And here's the thing. I know he means it. This wasn't a Paul Heyman shit-eating grin on his face or nothing like that. He probably legitimately feels that way. Like, if I could have put down the pills and not drank, I could have been you. But I am who I am. And I love that constant allusion to my flaws, his own flaws. And his flaws is why he didn't get to be Bryan Danielson, and why Bryan Danielson is better than he is. Because Danielson didn't have the problems that he had. Now, he talked about Jon Moxley like he was a stray cat he picked up on the street. He talked about, fucking Bryan Danielson like he was the baby left on the porch, and he got to raise him up and play catch with him. While Jon Moxley was like some, puppy with a chopped off tail and a missing ear that he found shitting in the street. He's like, oh, look at him, he's so cute. But the moral of the story is, he said that anybody who gets in the ring with these guys better step up or be stepped on. And I was like, okay, I love me some William Regal. This was very good. He stole the show. This was the best thing on this show. A precursor to what everybody else thinks that's going to be the best thing on this show. William Regal cutting that promo was the best thing on the show. It had legit momentum. It had legit emotions. It felt real. It felt from the heart. It was witty. It was funny. It told a story. Perfect. So after that, we followed that segment up with Wheeler Yuta versus Pac. And Pac wins the match. Nobody cares. Everybody went to sleep. FTR cut a promo. Dax cut a promo talking about wrestling being his first love until he met his wife. And then she gave birth to his daughter. And, Tully Blanchard then cut in and said, what about championships? What happened to championships? When you guys hired me, when I came in here, it was about becoming the AEW World Tag Team Champions. It needs to be about that, not about families. And Dax got really mad, grabbed Tully, who was 70 years old, grabbed him by his shirt collars, and says, what do you say about my family? It's always about my family. Dash got in between the two of them and said, yeah, you're right. It is always about family. Tully, you're fired. And I was like, wait, just like that? We're not going to tease it. We're not going to have Tully berate them over the next couple of weeks. Like, you guys, what's going on with you guys? You guys are fucking losers now. What's happening? And then for them to fire Tully. This happened so fast. This was too fast. This was so anticlimactic, bro. I was genuinely pissed. Like, wow, this was weeks and weeks of storytelling that you could have told. If you would have let FTR actually wrestle, however. Now, sure, if they wrestled, that means they probably would have had to lose, right? They would have had to lose once or twice in order to really set the story that they're not focused on becoming champions anymore. And then Tully hits them with what happened to the championships. Why are you talking about your stupid family? I don't care about your fucking family. This should be about being world champions. And then they fire him because he's getting real uppity and he doesn't care about their family. He only cares about money and success and material shit. Second problem with this is it turns FTR babyface. Who the fuck wants to see babyface FTR? Why would you even want to delve into that? Look, these guys are such great promos. They're such great characters, such great personalities. They can get over as baby faces, but why even do it? They're perfect fucking heels. Why? It's okay for people to be heels for a long time. I know it's been 3 years, but they can do 2 or, a guy's heel run may last 5 or 10 years in the past. You have plenty of babyface tag teams. You don't need to turn FTR babyface. Now, if there's something literally wrong with Tully, like he can't, fly anymore because he's got cancer or he's sick or, he just wants to get off the road or whatever the case may be, okay. I can see why it would be so sudden that we would get rid of Tully, but that would be the only reason I would get rid of him is if he wants to actually leave or he can't continue to do this. Other than that, this was too sudden and it was stupid. Why waste everybody's time, dog? Come on, man. You threw away months of storytelling here. There's months of opportunities to tell stories here. You threw it away, Now let's talk about the thing everybody wants to talk about, Jeff Hardy. So Matt is in the ring after this emergency meeting of the AHFO. Matt just says straight up he thinks he's going to be fired. And he apologized for everything that's been going on. And Andrade is like, look at me, I'm Andrade, you don't know. And Matt Hardy's just kind of like, yeah, I know that, we understand that. But I turn into an asshole whenever I'm wearing a suit. And then Andrade says, how about we take a vote? And so Matt Hardy comes up with the thumbs up, thumbs down. If you want me fired, thumbs down. If you want me in, thumbs up. And he thinks that Private Party's got his back because he's been their mentor for a long time. Andrade votes thumbs down. Jose votes thumbs down. And Hardy votes thumbs up. Private Party votes thumbs up. He thinks that he's going to win. Now, as he's talking about, the vote and all this kind of stuff, Private Party secretly point thumbs down. It was not exactly the Batista Triple H moment that everybody was expecting. They've been trying to recreate that so much. It's not, no, it wasn't that. And plus, I think, everybody saw it coming, especially with the way that they telegraphed it. They telegraphed it in numerous ways. One, as they were positioning themselves, they positioned themselves right behind Matt Hardy. So he had to turn around to see them. And that tells you right there that they were going to do something different than what he expected. They were already positioned behind him. The second thing is, I think it was Isaiah Cassidy took his glasses off and tossed them. And I was like, that's a number one tell right there. And that could be good storytelling right there. Because that creates that, oh no. You would think I didn't like that, but I actually did like that. When he took his glasses off and tossed them, I was like, Matt's in deep shit. Matt's in it. So Matt is talking about how Private Party always got his back, and those are his boys. He was his mentor. And Andrade was like, how do you know? In this business, you have to watch your back. And then they jumped him and beat him up. And they were beating him up pretty good. Pretty good beat down. Darby Allin and Sting came out there. He took their sweet ass time. I mean, Matt Hardy was taking a drubbing, a real drubbing. And they didn't do the WWE thing, which is the music plays and the bad guy stopped to see what's going on. They were still stomping Matt Hardy's head and chest and just basically just killing him as Matt Hardy and Sting walked and sauntered to the ring, taking literally for fucking ever to get there. So eventually they do get to the ring and they begin to fight with the HFO or AHFO, whatever. The brawl continues, and then the Hardy Boys music plays because it's a generic stock theme. People think that it's, WWE owns the theme. They don't. Jeff Hardy comes out there to the biggest reaction of the night, but still nowhere near the reaction that you would think a Jeff Hardy would get. And we'll talk about that in a moment. He actually stops to do his little Hardy dance on the ramp because he's so excited. And Matt's still getting stomped out in the ring. Eventually, he gets in the ring and they brawl and beat up the HFO, beat up all those guys. Matt and Jeff reunite. Everybody's excited. Everybody's happy. And this is another thing that was entirely anticlimactic. It was like everybody knows Jeff is going to be there. We gotta create a scenario in order for Jeff to show up. Now, it would have been there's 100 different ways you could have done this and it would have made it more interesting. You know, they chose a way that was not really all that interesting at all. You know, so like what's the storyline? You know, the Hardy Boys versus Private Party. I mean, okay, cool for Private Party, but we know that they're job guys. They haven't been featured on TV in forever. And by featured I mean cut promos, do character stuff. They had just been standing next to Matt Hardy for 6 months. They haven't had any character progression whatsoever. They were just fucking guys that he messed with. That was it. It's not like, they were coming into their own, or anything like that. It was basically just job guys. And they changed their look a little bit, but that was about it. So I don't really see that as being a big deal. Now, creating a situation where Jeff has to save Matt is fine, but this is again another situation where you could have had better storytelling. For instance, why was it that Jeff automatically was there? The moment that Matt got kicked out of the HFO, Jeff is there. Why not put some space in between that time? Like, I get it. You got Jeff Hardy, you want to show off that new toy. As my brother said, Tony Khan shopping like a motherfucker. He's shopping like a housewife in the suburbs. That's all he does is just swipe that fucking credit card, man. Sit down and think about this stuff. Think about how you would introduce a Jeff Hardy. You could just have him show up and save Matt in a spot like this. But why not let Matt get his comeuppance? Matt Hardy's been an absolute dickhead. He was a dickhead to Private Party. Like, think about that for a moment. He was a dickhead to Private Party. Let Private Party beat him up. And then you send Matt on a redemption tour where he's got to be like, look, I shouldn't have done what I did. I shouldn't have got into business with Andrade. I shouldn't have been mistreating the Private Party. I shouldn't have had them sign those bogus contracts where I took all their money. I was wrong for that. But just because I was wrong doesn't mean what they did was right. Now, you can say, Mongo, they're not capable of thinking that way. Yes, they are. Look at the Wardlow storyline we're about to talk about in a minute. They are perfectly capable of tying in all these different things. Matt Hardy being a guy who can't control his own urges, and he saw an opportunity to make some money, and he jumped on it, and it went to his head, and he started mistreating people. It's a good way of him now saying, I need to make this right, and maybe him trying to apologize to Private Party, saying, look, I'm willing to overlook you guys jumping me. I'm willing to let you out of your contracts, whatever it takes. But I'm sorry for the way I treated you guys. And then they beat him up again, because fuck him. From that, now Matt's starting to get frustrated. Now he's starting to get mad because he basically, apologized to them, poured his heart out. And he says, look, I'm going to try to beat both of your asses. Maybe you've challenged one of them to a one-on-one match. You get whichever one of them, maybe Isaiah Cassidy. Of course, Quinn would jump in and beat him up and say, yeah, I knew you guys would do this. And then Jeff comes out there. And it's just Jeff. Not Jeff and Sting and Darby and all that other shit. It's like just Jeff. To show that not only, because Jeff is like universal. Like the Hardy Boys are baby faces. Like the moment Jeff comes out, things are all right as far as the fans are concerned. So that's the thing, is you got to get the fans also to warm up to Matt being a babyface again. Because at this point, I didn't give a shit about Matt Hardy. Nobody gave a shit about Matt Hardy. He had been doing whatever he's been doing. He's been doing it for several weeks now. Not getting any real reaction out of doing this. His erratic behavior. Like, none of this stuff matters. None of this. Think about the story you could have been telling. You know, you could have still done the erratic behavior, but it just been Matt being Matt, big money Matt throwing money around. You know, trying to put wrestlers under contract who are not interested, and then trying to start fights with them and all that kind of stuff, using them as goons. You know, getting Private Party beat up all the time. That kind of stuff. There's so much stuff you could have done. And then they kind of spoiled it a little bit by having Darby and Sting come out there. It's like, what the fuck what do we need Darby and Sting out here for? You know, just so we can have Jeff Hardy and Sting and Darby Allin, so Darby Allin can get the rub from Jeff? Oh, come on. You know, we shouldn't even be thinking about that shit. You know, we should be establishing that Matt Hardy is a babyface now, and that he's willing to do what it takes to be a babyface. They don't get storytelling, man. It's all about surprise, surprise, surprise. And then this wasn't even a surprise. You know, they pretty much spoiled it weeks ago when Jeff said he was coming to AEW. You know, it was pretty much already spoiled. And then you could say to yourself, like, that audience pop, it was good. You know, as far as pops in terms of the crowd was concerned, it was good. But people were like, it reminded me of the WrestleMania pop. I'm like, yeah, right. Come on, man. It's that kind of delusional stuff that really frustrates me about the AEW fan base, because something could be good and not remotely remind you of. For starters, I think half that building was empty. That's just my opinion. I don't know what WrestleTix says, but I'm listening to that crowd. I'm looking at how dark it is in that building. I'm thinking that building is like fucking half empty. So even if everybody cheered for Jeff, it was nowhere near as loud as it was for WrestleMania. Nowhere near. And that alone tells me a lot. Secondly, the energy didn't last. You know, it was a great pop when he first came out, and then it kind of died down by the end of the segment. You know, but as he was doing all his stuff and him and Matt are hugging in the ring, it pretty much kind of died down. I was kind of like, damn, you know, I'm used to Jeff getting these massive, you know, humongous pops, even in TNA. Like, this is probably one of the weaker Jeff Hardy reactions likely ever. This is like a reaction he would have gotten by showing up on Main Event. Whatever. You know, I'm glad Jeff's happy. I'm glad Matt's happy. The Hardy Boys are always a great, viable product, but we don't know how long that's going to last. Both of them are in their 40s. You know, how long can it last? And I'm all for Jeff joining AEW to make this, you know, this big coin. You know, make the money. You know, go ahead. The billionaire wants the Hardy Boys. Give them the Hardy Boys. I heard some people say that, oh, Vince is going to sue Tony Khan for, you know, signing Jeff or doing business with Jeff or negotiating with Jeff before his contract was over. And look, Jeff said it himself. He doesn't really do a lot of the negotiations. He probably talked to Matt. And then Matt just said, Jeff, just sign this. It's almost similar to the same contract that I got. Sign that. And Jeff was like, okay, and signed it. And that was pretty much it. You know, I doubt that there were lawyers involved and secret meetings back and forth with Jacksonville, Dixie. I doubt it was that crazy. I mean, I think Jeff just took the opportunity that was presented to him. Whether he got fired on purpose or not, I think it's kind of irrelevant at this point. You know, WWE should know Jeff might make a difference in terms of TV ratings in modern day, because he is one of the last legitimate stars left. But they're put him in a tag team with Matt, who was virtually immobile. And the Hardy Boys of today is not the Hardy Boys of 2010, 2012, or whatever, when they were doing that stuff in TNA. They certainly aren't the Hardy Boys of the 90s or the early 2000s. So, I don't know. Maybe the name will get people interested. And I think so. You know, I think that'll work. So I expect their TV ratings to be pretty decent. You know, especially when the Hardy Boys wrestle, because Jeff is legitimately that dude for a lot of people. You know? And it's not a broom closet like TNA was. TNA was essentially a broom closet where Jeff could go in there and be a main event guy for 2 or 3 years, and people would be like, "Oh shit, where did Jeff Hardy go?" You know, like at least some people now know, like, "Oh, okay, Jeff is with AEW." That's great. And I made this video about CM Punk, right? And I said that where CM Punk says that there's weird wrestling fans who watch WWE and watch nothing else and don't know anything else exists. I looked just for shits and giggles, and I saw that CM Punk's his return to Chicago when he first came back, as of the recording of this video, it has like 12 million views. Now, I'm sure there's people who watched it more than once, but I'm going to say, how many of those you think are unique viewers? Quite a few, right? So, of those unique viewers, they know that AEW exists and they still don't watch it. Maybe you should think about that. And I think we're probably going to look at another situation here. I think the debuts get the most views on YouTube, is they just want to see the who's coming in and who's doing this. And I think there's been a debut on every single episode of Dynamite since it aired. And that's very impressive, if we're being honest. I'm almost certain there was a debut of some kind on every episode of Dynamite that has aired thus far. And that says a lot. Even if it's just an indie wrestler who shows up one time and goes away like Warhorse. I think there had been a debut on every episode of Dynamite. It would be interesting to know if there has been a Dynamite thus far that did not have a debut. This is just a gimmick that they do. They do debuts. But it was fine. I love Jeff. I don't really like Matt as much anymore. But the Hardy Boys are a viable product. They're going to draw some money. They're going to sell some merchandise. So the question is always going to be, can they draw more than Tony Khan is paying them? And that's always going to be the question. And I don't know what the answer to that question is. Vince didn't fight too hard to keep the Hardys anymore. So I don't know. Moving on. So Swerve, he will debut on Rampage. They didn't have an opponent from him until Tony Nese walked up and started running his choppers. Tony Nese, remember the hottest free agent in pro wrestling? Remember him? He had one match on Rampage, won, had another one for the TNT title, lost, and then disappeared into the boonies for the rest of the 4 months or whatever. Yeah, that guy. They talked about having a tradition of wrestling on Friday nights. I guess they were talking about 205 Live. And why are you referencing 205 Live on this show, man? Jesus Christ, this is stupid. It's just stupid. Like, why? For starters, you just told everybody that Swerve is a game changer and he's one of the top guys or whatever, and then you don't even debut him on Dynamite. You debut him on fucking Rampage on a taped show. You had Wheeler Yuta on this card. For fuck's sake, get out of here. Wheeler Yuta gets a spot on Rampage and Swerve doesn't. Keith Lee doesn't. Keith Lee gonna wrestle on Rampage too? Well, I'm talking about Keith Lee. Keith Lee is backstage with QT Marshall. QT Marshall says that we have a... Oh, God. Keith Lee. QT Marshall. It seems that you are interested in me, yet I find no interest in you. What is it that you desire, QT Marshall? And QT Marshall starts talking about they have a common enemy, which is Team Taz. Taz trusted me to train Hook, and he was like, wait a minute. Didn't Hook beat you up recently? Oh, yeah, that occurred, yada. And then he says, I got you back. We got you back. Nightmare Family, we got you back. Keith Lee then responds, I have a rather large back. I have a rather large fatty back. You can smack much bacon off of. I'm sorry. I just can't take this shit seriously. Anyway, he denied the request. And now they're going to wrestle. And I was like, I can't imagine something I want to see less than QT Marshall versus Keith Lee. I don't want to see this. I don't want to watch that. That sucks. To be quite frank. That sucks, brother. Keith Lee is great, man. Just Come on, what are you doing? Why are we shoving Keith Lee and Swerve on Rampage, bro? Why are we doing that? All right, back into place. Let's talk about Wardlow. Because Wardlow cut the promo of his life, and he didn't cut a wrestling promo. It just seemed like a guy who was talking. You know, like he was on Dr. Phil or something like that, and he was explaining his bad behaviors. You know, and so he says that he had to think about some things. Is he going to spend his life accomplishing his goals or helping someone else accomplish their goals? And he was doing that, helping other people accomplish their goals, and spent his life, the past 3 years of his life, helping Max fulfill his goals, and apologized for associating with trash like Maxwell Jacob Freeman, but say he grew up poor. He watched his mom struggle to take care of him and his sisters, and he knew that he wanted to be a pro wrestler, and that pro wrestling could help him support his family. And he said the slap in the face sealed Max's fate, and that he's still under contract to Maxwell Jacob Freeman. He just doesn't care anymore. Then he renounced Max, he renounced the Pinnacle, and said that he is free, and that he wants to be released from his contract and doesn't want to waste any more energy fighting Max. Even though people said that, powerbomb. He was like, I don't want to waste any more energy on him. I don't even want to fight him. And I was like, wow, that's actually good character stuff right there. It's very interesting. I wouldn't do it with a guy like Wardlow, but this is good, interesting stuff. Wardlow is a giant, right? You would want him to come out there and really be intense, but he is very conversational here. You know, he kind of broke down. Hey, man, we grew up poor with no money. All I got is my muscles, and I figured I can use my muscles to get where I need to be. You know, this guy's offering some cash. I took the cash, man. Sorry. It was very relatable. You know, I like this. I thought this was very good. This was great from Wardlow. But it's not what I would have done. You know, it's not what I would have done. I think it kind of flies in the face of the intensity of his character. You know, think about, they trying to make him like Batista, right? And this isn't a promo Batista would have cut. You know, it just doesn't feel that way. For starters, Batista would have been a lot more intense. Secondly, Batista would have been all about the power bomb. Oh, I'm gonna beat his ass. Believe that. You know, like he gonna get it. And they didn't. It was interesting. Let's put it like that. It was a good promo. It was well done, but it's not what I would have done. And I don't think most other people who watch wrestling would have put Wardlow in this conversational style situation where he just stands there and explains himself. I think that he would have yelled and says, you know, Max smacked me. No man smacks me. I don't care if I end up poor. I'm going to beat his motherfucking ass because he put his hands on me. You know, my mama raised me to either, you know, not to take no shit. And I took more than enough shit out of MJF. I think I've taken enough shit. But it was an interesting storyline to say, I just want my release. Now, to me, it seems like they're going the WWE route, where it's going to be MJF is Vince McMahon and Wardlow is Pro Wrestler X, like Mustafa Ali. I want out of my contract. Nope. And you still work for me and everything, yada, yada, yada. And he's going to string them along. And, you know, you got to do all this, and I'll let you out of my contract, out this contract. And then maybe after they have the match, he'll let him out of the contract. That's clearly the direction that they're going here. Is that they're going to start saying, instead of Wardlow being fired, he's going to be forced to continue working for MJF. And then eventually he's just going to get hired by AEW. Now, all of that is well and good, and it's an interesting story, but it's just not the way I think I would have done it. It wasn't intense enough. It didn't utilize his size. It utilized mostly his just, I don't know. It's just, to me, it didn't come across like a wrestling promo. It came across like a therapy session. You know, it's another one of those therapy sessions where, you know, and it works, you know, for that style. I just don't think I would have done it. It's unique. And I guess that's a good thing in this situation. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it, but I don't love it. Let's put it like that. I think it was very good, but I didn't love it. Next, Jurassic Express beat the Acclaimed. Why did this match happen? I don't know. Jay Cargill says, "Who's next? Who's going to get my kiss of death?" They showed her kissing Ty Conti, and I was like, all right, whatever. Layla Hirsch was defeated by Thunder Rosa. This was a number one contenders match for the AEW Women's World Title, which makes no sense because Thunder Rosa just got a title shot and lost. Red Velvet came out there to help Thunder Rosa as Layla Hirsch was trying to cheat. Thunder Rosa then won with a Fire Thunder Driver or whatever the fuck she calls it. And then it was announced that Thunder Rosa's match for the AEW World Title will take place in her hometown of San Antonio in a steel cage. Could you not telegraph this finish more? Could you not telegraph this even more that Thunder Rosa is going to win the title in San Antonio in front of her hometown crowd? Okay, that's fine. Then why did you beat her at the pay-per-view? You could have put anybody in that spot. You literally could have put Red Velvet in that spot. You could have put Chris Statlander in that spot. You could have done anybody and put them in that spot and not have Thunder Rosa lose. That way, when you did the Eliminator, okay, Britt Baker still beat another opponent. And we can say, all right, now she's got to deal with Thunder Rosa. Now, I get it that Thunder Rosa lost because of all the interference. But she always loses, just like everybody else, because of all the interference. So it's not like that storyline needed that match to occur. It didn't. You could have had smart refs or smart bookers, and Thunder Rosa say, "Oh yeah, I already know I'm not going to get a fair match." And then somebody could have said, "But you are going to get a fair match because it's going to be a steel cage match." And then she could be like, "Yes," or whatever, and that could have been it. You didn't need to have that match in which Thunder Rosa lost because of cheating. Now she's going to lose. She's going to win the title in her hometown. That's cool, I guess. But it's telegraphed a mile away. There's absolutely no surprise in that. Whatever. Britt Baker said it was a conspiracy. And says, "Where's Mercedes?" And Mercedes won't be there because Jamie Hayter's going to beat her up on Rampage. Which means most definitely Mercedes Martinez beat the shit out of Jamie Hayter on Rampage. So then we got Scorpio Sky, who wins the TNT Championship and the crowd goes absolutely mild. They tried to put they tried to put it together like it was a big deal. Nobody cared. So this match was what it was. Sammy Guevara does a 630 through a table of his own volition because he's crazy, mixed up Sammy Guevara. He Wile E. Coyote'd himself. Then he was outside the ring for the entirety of like a 3 or 4 minute commercial break. And I could have swore that in every match you have to a count of 10. And on New Japan, it might be to a count of 20. But I didn't know you could spend a whole commercial break outside the ring without getting counted out. And then the referees are going to walk him to the back without ringing the bell and calling the match off. Whatever. They get into the ring. They start having the match. Paige Van Zant, because she's involved, she starts to antagonize Tay Conti. Tay Conti is trying to stop the interference of Dan Lambert and everybody else. She pulls, I think it was Dan Lambert, off the ring apron. While she does that, Paige Van Zant jumps her from behind, runs her face first into the steps, which is pretty brutal. Sammy Guevara was completely and totally distracted by this. Got hit with Scorpio Sky's finish, and Scorpio Sky wins. Following which, American Top Team stomped out Sammy Guevara and Tay Conti, stacked them on top of each other, and then Paige Van Zant signed her contract on top of Tay Conti. I think we can all agree that Scorpio Sky is a transitional champion. He's Ivan Koloff in this situation, all right? He's a guy who won the belt because they don't want Wardlow to beat up on Sammy Guevara. That's what all of this is about. Wardlow getting that belt. Scorpio Sky wins the title. That's nice for him. They did it nice. Great. I would have used somebody else, but they probably would have gotten bitched at about the race thing, But now they're gonna have to New Day him. They gotta Big E him. They got a Kofi Kingston this guy, okay? He has no business being the champion. He just has no business being the champion. He has no momentum. Nobody truly believed that he won, and nobody was shocked. That's the kind of reaction which you wanted. You want to try to recreate the reaction that Ricochet got, when he won the Intercontinental title. It was very similar, where Ricochet did nothing but lose up to this point or not be featured and not be over. And then out of nowhere, he wins, and the crowd's like, yay! Oh my goodness! Here, everybody's like, Scorpio Sky wins, and they was like, what? Why? Why are you doing this? And congratulations to Scorpio Sky. I guess, I guess he can. When people start saying that Tony Khan's a racist, they could be like, look, don't do that. Look, I'm just kind of looking at it like, all right, he's Stan Stasiak. He's going to have the belt until he loses it to Wardlow. It's Tony Khan. It's classic wrestling booking. Of course, that's what he would do. Save Sammy Guevara versus Wardlow for a different match. Now you have, obviously, Paige Van Zant and Ty Conti is going to spin out of this. I don't know if I'm interested in that. To be quite honest, I'm not. But I do have a morbid curiosity in whether Paige Van Zant is going to be any good or not. She kind of rammed Ty Conti's face into them steps. I think that kind of gives us a general idea of how her matches are going to be. But nobody cares about Scorpio Sky winning this title. It's all about Wardlow now. And Wardlow should win it. I'm not going to be, even though I do like Scorpio Sky and I like black dudes being champions, Scorpio Sky's not the guy. He's just a 40-year-old also-ran who they kept on the roster for a long time. And now he's won 2/3 of the titles. And nobody gives a shit about either one of them that he won. He's clearly just there to lose the belt to Wardlow. And if he don't lose the belt to Wardlow and for some reason maybe MJF screws him out of it, that's stupid as shit. It's stupid as fuck. You do the storyline that you said you was going to do. Wardlow crushes Scorpio Sky with like 500 power bombs, wins the TNT title, and then MJF then maybe the next week, MJF comes out to claim the belt and say the belt is mine. You're not a wrestler. Give me the belt. And then you do WrestleMania 4. You say, okay, well, Wardlow has to give the belt back to MJF or be in breach of contract or whatever. He does so. Then Tony Khan says that you can't transfer the TNT title that way. So the title is forfeit by Wardlow and you have to win a tournament or whatever. And then we get the title back on track. But you 100% have to feed Scorpio Sky to Wardlow. You have to. It makes no sense for you to put the title on Scorpio Sky. He was not over. He has no momentum. He really doesn't even have a story. This was stupid. But I understand it because it has storyline purposes. If he doesn't lose the title, it's stupid. But if he does lose the title, then it made perfect sense because that's the only reason he would have had it. So there's that. I was definitely surprised by the lack of response for a lot of the things on this show. You would have thought AEW fans would have, leapt out of their skin for the amount of stuff that they was put out in front of this in this TV, and they were pretty mild. But I don't know. I guess everybody gotta have off nights. It happens. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.
MagMongoSlade. Best house I ever drew, Daddy.